This is the new era. This is the new band, and we're unbreakable.
We can rebuild him. We have the technology. We can make him better than he was. Better, stronger, faster. Actually, better, stronger,
faster. Is that a
faster.
line from Starship Troopers or something?
No, it's actually the $1 Million
It's
Man.
$6 Million Man. I know that, and
I don't even know what that is.
We Brits don't do excitement, so this is the best you're gonna get.
Chris is bringing the noise today, apparently.
Speaking of vanilla,
It's just, I don't understand why.
I don't think anyone does. I don't think Travis Green understands.
Talking you through every goalie controversy, scoring slump, and draft lottery bust. This is the C4 Podcast on CanucksHockeyBlog.com and CKNW.com. Here they are, fresh from folding towels, sharpening skates, and washing jock straps. Chris, Matt, Anna, and Adam.
Welcome to another episode of the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast, now heard on Overtime Media. This is Chris Golden at Lightforce, joined in the big hot box by Anna Forsyth at aforsyth03 and Matt Lee at @Lee_61. On the LTIR is Adam O'Neill Carter at AdamFOC. He will not be here, although I think he wins because he's not sweating it out in the hot box here.
Yeah, we're sure missing him, but he'll be alright. He'll come back from after a conditioning stint in the minors.
A conditioning stint in the minors, huh?
To be clear, he did have a bit of a medical emergency, which he is attending to. But for the most part, he will be fine. He's just on some medication right now, and we'll let him explain more thoroughly what happened to him later. Is he Chris Tanev or Brandon Sutter?
Ooh, I think he's Chris Tanev because it's a much larger sample size with Adam on the podcast, and he hasn't made a full season yet.
I'd just like to point out also that I sent Adam a GIF. There you go.
A GIF?
A GIF.
Oh my
Sun and
God.
peanut butter, did you?
Of Samwise Gamgee from Lord of the Rings telling him, "Don't you dare leave me."
What is wrong with myself and Anna that you would be paranoid if...
Well, first of all,
if
you're
Adam isn't here?
Boromir.
So I don't make it past the first episode, okay?
You are Sean Bean.
Okay, yeah, you had to explain that to me because I'm not wise in the way.
Did you just say
Lord of the Rings.
okay,
Whoa.
hang on. So you host C4 at the movies, and yet you've never
Yeah,
seen Lord of the
sometimes.
Rings?
I've seen the first one,
Well, then you know who Boromir
and
is.
I read the second one. I read the last one, sorry.
Okay, you know who
and
Boromir
I hated
is.
it. But I just hated it so much.
What
that
was
I
wrong with
blanked it
Lord of the
out.
Rings?
It's just not.
We're
I hate
so off the rails
fantasy.
already,
I
but-
hate fantasy so much.
Did you know it's on Netflix again?
Lord of the Rings is?
I'm halfway through Two Towers right now.
Is it like the regular, or is it like the supersized extended version?
I think they only have the supersized extended version for Return of the King,
I thought they...
which ends up being like 4.5 hours,
my
by the way.
Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah,
God.
It's long, but I'm only on number 2, which I think arguably was the second best of them.
The second one was the second best.
Yes, Return of the King is the best one, and then Fellowship of the Ring was the third.
Well,
but they're all three of them were great. By the way.
Yeah, I think they can all sort of stand alone on their own. Where it started to go kind of crazy is when you took Hobbit and turned it into 3 movies. That one I don't agree with. Anywho, this is not a...
Side note, very quickly, again, I'm so off the rails, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
But Anna just said, because I made it, you look like Shrek today.
Thank
and
you.
then Anna says that Adam and I are donkey split into 2 people.
Accurate. See, accurate.
That is awesome.
What does this make Anna?
I don't think I'm Fiona. I don't know, the Cheshire Cat maybe?
I don't know what that is. I didn't
I
watch
haven't
all the
seen-
Shrek movies.
Yeah, I only saw like the first
Sorry,
one.
Shrek is not
so-
Lord of the Rings, so...
So you want to be the Antonio Banderas character, Puss
Yeah,
in
he's
Boots?
badass and he's cute. Puss in Boots, that's who I mean, not Cheshire Cat. I'm getting
Well,
to
no, I knew who you were talking
my
about.
lore mixed
I haven't
up.
even watched like more than the first Shrek, and I know who Puss in Boots is.
what are we talking about today on the show, guys?
Well, apparently the
Before I
Vancouver
went
Canucks
OTR.
season isn't over quite yet. We're going to be
Is
talking.
it not? I really want it to be.
There's a few people that seem to. One of them is not Tim Schaller. That dude is going to single-handedly pull the Vancouver Canucks into playoff contention.
Oh, God.
We're going to talk about Tim.
You can't stop Tim Schaller. You can only hope to contain him.
I think we need a Quinn Hughes update, as in we don't know what's going on there. Loui Eriksson finally got himself sent up to the press box. That's definitely discussion
He got the DJ MDZ treatment, I see.
Yeah, unfortunately, he can't get traded until the off season, assuming there is someone to trade him to. I don't know what else we'll throw in here. I mean, heck, there's all sorts of stuff we can, shoot the proverbial about.
Can we talk about Pettersson? The rookie season officially
Officially
all-time
matched.
in the record books with Pavel Bure.
Yeah, tied, but he can get a point or goal to break it.
Tonight.
I have a feeling he will get that point at some point between now and the end of the regular season.
I think.
Well, yeah,
I feel
he'll
like
break
he'll
it.
get it
I have
by
s-
now
but
and
that was
the
me
end
being
of the game.
sarcastic. By
Yeah,
the way.
well, no, we don't, we're recording, if for those who haven't been paying quite attention, we're recording right now live while the Vancouver Canucks and the Blackhawks are playing. Last I checked, the Blackhawks were
1-0.
still...
1-0.
Jonathan Toews, 30 seconds left in the first.
Okay.
Captain Serious.
He's my birthday twin.
Yeah?
Unfortunately.
What the hell does
When
that...
is your birthday?
It's April 29th.
Not
my
that
God.
Anna's wanting any gifts.
yeah,
But
not
please
that
get
she
me
didn't want to
gifts.
plug that in.
No.
But please get me gifts.
Just saying it's.
I would just like to point out that Chris said that we would get her a stripper.
So the fact that you bring it up on a regular episode violates so many rules. Like there is the conversation before we hit record, and then there's the conversation when we hit record.
Nothing's off limits here. We have nothing to hide.
Yeah, you especially with what you're wearing today.
I'm wearing my bike gear, by the way. in case
Yeah,
you're wondering.
we really miss that, Matt. I'm
You know
so
what?
glad you're back
I'm
in
really
bike
doing
gear.
myself a non-solid by going off the rails when we could be talking about. Let's just get into it.
Let's just get into it.
Well, even though Adam's not here, Matt, he's going to bring us the F word.
He liked to say the F word.
Well, then get the here then. Okay, see ya.
is going to have the F word on it.
I wish I could give you an explanation about it. I can't.
You, out of here.
You said the F word, Dad.
You called me the F word.
Okay, so I had nothing prepared going into this. All I had was 2 words. Tim Schaller. Let's be clear about this. I woke up today after our win over Dallas yesterday afternoon, and I remembered we are going to pay Tim Schaller $1.9 million to play for us again next season. First of all, I'll pose this question to you guys. Is there any chance Tim Schaller is not on this team next season in one form or another?
Any chance? Well, there's definitely a chance that he's not on this team. Is the likelihood that he is not on this team? No, I think it's actually unlikely. I think he's back.
Yeah.
And here's Tim Schaller. He's played 38 games now for the Vancouver Canucks, and in his 38th game, he chose this game, a game where we could probably use 0 points to score his first 2 goals as a Vancouver Canuck. Thanks a lot to Wyatt Arndt, by the way,
Yeah,
the Sanchin,
cheers,
who
Wyatt.
correctly said, or not correctly, but he prognosticated that Tim Schaller would score a hat trick just because he needed something to talk about in the Athletics. And here's Tim Schaller scoring 2 goals en route to the Canucks winning a 3-2 shootout game against the Dallas Stars. We don't need those 2 points. Do we need those 2 points?
No, and you know what? Markstrom has kind of snuck a lot of wins this season, but this isn't Markstrom's fault. Like, this is Tim Schaller's fault.
Markstrom gave the Canucks a chance to lose this game in regulation. And there's Tim Schaller just pulling victory out of the clutches of defeat.
Yeah.
I just cannot understand why Tim Schaller has to do this to the Vancouver Canucks. Literally, in the span of that one game, the Vancouver Canucks crept up 2 whole spots in the standings. They went from having the 6th best, I believe, odds at getting first in the draft to getting the 8th best odds. We're now looking at the possibility of the Vancouver Canucks not even drafting somehow in the top 10.
So wouldn't it be awesome if the 6th spot were to go and get picks 1, 2, or 3, and then we look back at the game where
Pivotal Tim Schaller game?
Tim Schaller, forced the Canucks just that much ahead.
And so, you know what? We've talked about the usefulness of guys like Loui Eriksson and, Nikolai Goldobin and Tim Schaller. I question what Tim Schaller brings to the table. And then the accidental win.
Yeah, because Louis was full of little things to try and help us lose. Louis was doing his job. Tim Schaller was not.
And I would just like to also add, as we wrap things up here on the F word, wouldn't it also be ironic if the 8th spot wins the lottery and then we could look back on this game?
Fondly of Tim Schaller getting us to that point?
Tim Schaller, the hero that we didn't deserve. I don't know. It's not likely, but the math tells me that the sixth best odds have the better odds than the eighth best odds. And Tim Schaller, what does he bring to the table? Not a whole lot, but apparently 2 accidental points. Should we get into rewind?
I think we need to get to rewind. I'm still here, chuckling away that we actually just spent a handful of time talking about the great Tim Schaller, who, in fairness, may not have actually needed to play after all.
Yeah, I honestly forgot he was a thing for a brief moment.
Well, that's because he's been permanently stapled to whatever seat it is that he has in the press box.
Are you kidding me? It has his seat etched in stone in the press box.
Yeah, it's called the Tim Schaller Memorial Press Box.
Is it
he's not dead.
Like in Vancouver or like in every rink now?
In every rink.
Yeah.
So, as we transition from Tim Schaller, can we talk about the guy who he replaced in the lineup, and that's Nikolai Goldobin?
Mm-hmm.
Is this the last we may have seen out of Nikolai Goldobin? Or, at least in a sense, has the Canucks coaching staff already made up their mind on what to do with Nikolai Goldobin in the offseason?
Made up their mind? I don't necessarily think they made up their mind for the offseason, but Nikolai Goldobin has probably played himself off the team. The difficulty that I see is that we have a player, Nikolai Goldobin, who frustrates the coaching staff. And yes, he is quote-unquote a jag. Like, I can't argue that. But then when we look at the minutes he's been getting, I'm actually curious if he has been as bad as everyone seems to think he is. Or is it simply that the expectation we have for Goldobin is up here, and what he's been able to produce is down there, and therefore we're going to go and hold him accountable to that. And that would then maybe lead me to ask, are the expectations that we have for Nikolai Goldobin, even sensible? I don't see how the Canucks are a better team with Tim Schaller in the lineup over Nikolai Goldobin, although
apart from
Tim Schaller was obviously proving me wrong there. Yeah.
Dallas. But and you're saying the expectations we have. I mean,
a collective fan.
Right. I think it's honestly more Travis Green, because he's doing what Travis Green asked him to do. You can't get a offensive player who has some defensive liabilities to work on his defensive game and expect his offensive product to remain the same, especially when he's been so in and out of the lineup. I just think it's unrealistic, and if they continue to see him that way, I don't see how he stays on the team.
Do you guys, first of all, agree with the sentiment that Nikolai Goldobin is a jag? Do you think he's a jag?
Well, his play is indicative of a jag.
It's indicative of a jag.
Yeah, whether he is or not, I don't know. I actually think he's a better player than he has been with the Vancouver Canucks.
Okay, so let's do maybe a quick comparison about who you would rather have in the lineup on the Canucks roster. Would you rather have Nikolai Goldobin or Tim Schaller?
Goldobin.
Would you rather have Nikolai Goldobin, and this is not regarding positions and stuff like that. Would you rather have Nikolai Goldobin or Tyler Mott?
Still Goldobin, but Mott's been useful they're just very different players. It's so hard.
Yeah, see, I'm sitting here, I'm like, well, no, if I had to choose, I'd choose Mott, not because I think he's the better player. I think he's a better jag than Goldobin, right?
I mean, cheaper, right? Must be?
Well, I don't think so. I would think Goldobin's still on a pretty low contract.
Nikolai Goldobin or Loui Eriksson?
Goldobin.
But the contract means that.
Well,
Eriksson gets in.
There isn't any reason why we would say Eriksson at that point.
Nikolai Goldobin or Jay Beagle?
I mean...
Actually, let's hold off on Beagle. I'll go Nikolai Goldobin or Ryan Spooner.
Oh, Goldobin.
Yep. That's an easy one too, right?
It is, but I would argue that Spooner still has a very small sample size on a Canucks uniform.
Goldobin or Tanner Pearson, who's effectively taken his spot, so to speak, in the lineup?
I'd just rather give Goldobin the shot over Pearson, because it's,
Well, but the thing you can argue with, though, is he has been given an opportunity. Like, Goldobin has seen some solid minutes with the likes of Pettersson, with the likes of Horvat, the likes of others, and he's not been able to make the most of the opportunity. I can't remember who it was that shared some analytics, though, that do show that Goldobin is highly effective and actually improves the line of, or play of Pettersson. So it could be that maybe he hasn't been given enough of an opportunity to really build chemistry in the way that, Elias and Brock have.
Yeah, you can argue that he's been given decent minutes and with good line mates, but you can also see that he hasn't had the momentum of staying in the lineup game by game to really build on anything.
Continuing our Goldobin comparison. Goldobin or Beagle? Beagle? I think I take Beagle.
Well, Beagle comes with experience.
And the contract.
Well, but do you see Beagle as having an upside?
Not really.
No.
Right? Like that's, you sort of know what you're getting with Jay Beagle.
Right.
That's it.
Okay, so better comparison. Goldobin or Marcus Granlund?
Goldobin.
See, I was going to go with Granlund.
Yeah, it's close for me too.
And that's because, again, now the reason with Granlund is still, it's another guy who I think you know what you're sort of getting with, but Granlund provides more defensive discipline than Goldobin does.
True story, though.
Which, again, it's a reach, but still, Goldobin right now is so rough on every edge.
This is, I think, the more telling statement here. Goldobin or Josh Levo, who's getting a lot of discussion right now.
Josh Levo.
I think so, too.
Like,
and I think that's where it
starts.
Stops for me.
Like, that's a reclamation project that's really worked out for the Vancouver Canucks.
I agree. And I think that's why, as a result, Goldobin has been as polarizing as he has. Because here, there seems to be quite a bit of consensus for Goldobin over the likes of Mott, over Schaller, over Eriksson, regardless of the contract. But there seems to be a clear consensus as well that Josh Levo is a better player in this lineup than Nikolai Goldobin is. And so there's just only a handful of top 6, top 9 winger spots and only so much competition that Nikolai Goldobin can compete against. And I have this fear, not fear, but I have this feeling that coaching staff have felt that they have squeezed as much as they can out of Nikolai Goldobin, tried to coach all the mistakes out of him, and it's just not sort of sticking in his brain. And it has me feeling that there is a very good possibility Nikolai Goldobin is not here next season.
Oh, yeah, the possibility is high. It's just how do they dish him out? Give some props to Peter Canuck over in Gate 16, who shared a Botchford tweet earlier this afternoon. And I think Botch has it straight. Nothing says bad team like debating Goldobin for months.
It's true. The fact that we're here in March in meaningless games talking about the merits of keeping Nikolai Goldobin in this lineup speaks to how bad overall this team is. But here's the thing. Nikolai Goldobin, as much as you and I have all discussed about the frustrations of, he has a lot of talent, and it's very difficult for me to potentially lose Nikolai Goldobin for almost nothing. And I feel like looking at those select fantasy stats, there's just a fear that we will give up on Nikolai Goldobin and he could turn it around on another team. And I think he very well could still.
Canucks make a specialty out of that, right?
What, having players turn it around on another team?
Erik Goodbranson.
Erik Goodbranson.
In that small sample size with Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
What about Gags out in the Oil?
Oh, yeah, back on a 50-point pace, I think, in Edmonton. No, but seriously, I mean, do you guys not feel that if Goldobin were to be traded or let go and go to another team, that there is still a reasonable chance he could still turn it around?
Oh, yeah. I think that's where, if that opportunity exists, if he's given players he can build chemistry with, and almost, if anything, the leash is taken off. Like right now, I think the Vancouver Canucks are looking for him to play a game that he doesn't quite understand. Like, this is a team that wants to play defensive hockey, and Goldobin wants to play, creative offensive hockey. It's no different than, it was his second game or first game with the Canucks where he, blows the blue line early, scores a goal, and then doesn't see the ice the rest of the period because, Willie D needs to show the kid, who's actual boss. Okay, fine. You know what? I get that lessons need to be taught, but when your team sucks,
yeah, who cares?
Like, you need some excitement. You need to generate buzz. You need bums in seats, and this is the perfect time to actually let players play.
Let's wrap this up on Nikolai Goldobin, and I'll ask you this question. This is now, I believe, the third spring that we've headed into with Nikolai Goldobin on our roster, correct?
Well, yeah, 2
since
TGs
the Hansen trade
and 1 Willie D.
So I feel like at around this time last year, for the last 2 years, we've seen Goldobin get a long leash, a long look, show a little bit of promise, which has always concluded us with every season saying we want to bring Nikolai Goldobin back into the fall. Let me ask you this. Is what we're seeing from Travis Green over the last week or so, this tough love on Nikolai Goldobin, is that calculated at all? And this might be a bit of a reach, but I say this because you don't want to give Goldobin so much of a vote of confidence if you're Travis Green, because you want him to work hard over the offseason. Is this some tough love from Travis Green to say to Nikolai Goldobin that you need to put in a very good offseason of work, or this is your last shot? Is that at all a possibility?
Well, we've seen that Travis is a fan of the tough love approach. I mean, look at Ben Hutton, and it seemed to work on him, but you've just got to... It's not great man management if you're using that approach for every player, and it's clearly not helping with Goldobin to punish him for every little mistake he makes by having him sit for 3 to 5 games. I don't think that's a way to make that player better. Like, Ben Hutton getting scratched all that time, it seemed to have worked, but you've just got to mold your approach a bit better, I think.
Yeah, not all players respond to that tactic as well as some might. I think Hutton is the type of player who responded well. He's got that personality, and you can tell. I don't necessarily believe Goldobin has that same Ben Hutton personality. Well, okay, so talking about Goldobin, he's an RFA at the end of the season. Does he get a QO?
Yes.
See, if you're going to qualify him, we're now placing that's an asset that's coming back, unless we're shipping them off for a reclamation.
Let me put it this way: I'm not interested in losing Goldobin for nothing. First and foremost,
okay.
I'm also not interested in trading him for pennies on the dollar. So if I were to entertain a trade for Nikolai Goldobin, I wouldn't want anything less than a 3rd-round pick in exchange for him.
Is he?
And I don't think he gets that, to be honest.
No,
yeah,
actually,
the way he's performed and the way he's been treated this season, both of those combined to make not a great asset to trade.
And I would also add that just Nikolai Goldobin, as shocking as it is to believe, his points per game over the last few years has slowly ticked upwards. And I know production is only a part of his game that Travis Green has a problem with, but it's like, I'm not interested in trading Nikolai Goldobin when his value is at an all-time low. And there's going to be I bet you there are quite a few teams out there that are willing to take a risk on Nikolai Goldobin if it means nothing.
Oh yeah, if it means nothing, I think you are right. There are teams that would take a risk, but if you're not willing to trade him for pennies on the dollar, then and we're not willing to lose him for nothing, we answered our question. Nikolai Goldobin comes back for us to discuss this episode after episode next season.
Yeah.
Anyhow. Enough of Goldobin. Let's
move on. Can we talk about Loui Eriksson now? This is a nice transition.
Let's talk about Loui.
Okay. So Loui Eriksson gets healthy scratched last week. I don't think any of us saw it coming. I will say this. I was at home getting ready for the game, and I think it was Joe Canuck 12 in Discord who said, this is not a drill. Loui Eriksson is being scratched. And I didn't believe him. I had to click the link from Brendan Batchelor to see with my own 2 friggin' eyes that Loui Eriksson was, in fact, a healthy scratch. I could not believe that. Is this the first time Loui Eriksson has ever been healthy scratched?
Yes. With the Vancouver Canucks.
Well, for sure with the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah,
And he was better with other teams, so it's less likely to have happened, but I'm not
sure.
But
not only was he healthy scratched, he's healthy scratched in the garbage point of the season in an effort to send a message.
Do you think the message was received?
Oh, if you're Loui Eriksson, you're like, my paycheck still comes, right?
So you're telling me I don't have to physically exert myself and I will still get the same paycheck every time?
I think that's how he approaches most games, but yeah.
I mean, we shouldn't knock him for, doing nothing wrong. And, when he does play, I will give him the little things that he does do, what few of them there might be. But him getting scratched was one thing. Getting scratched in the garbage point of the season? Okay, you know what? We want to go and play the kids more. But to get scratched to prove a point, to teach him a lesson, to show him that no one is untouchable. Why now?
Also, was it to teach him a lesson or was it to sate the fan base?
But so Benny got riled up because firebending was trending in Canada and went to Greener and said, "Hey, yeah, Travis,
could you do this and help me out?"
Yeah, I need you to do me a solid." Like, I don't know, maybe. I don't think that conversation takes place.
There's been discussion, and it was more and more when the scratch happened that Travis Green isn't Louis' biggest fan, and he does get leaned on to play him.
I've said this before about Loui Eriksson, and I'll say it again here. Everything that we've seen from Loui Eriksson throughout his tenure with the Vancouver Canucks to this point has done nothing but send a message to me that he is simply here, as Nexus 187 just said, but to cash a check. I don't feel Loui Eriksson is here to mold the kids, the leaders of tomorrow. I don't think he's here to pour hours and hours into the community. He acts and plays as though he is here to play 15 to 20 minutes every night, cash a check, not even 15 or 20 these days, but he is here to play minutes and go home. And that's all he wants to do. And if Loui Eriksson wants to prove me wrong and actually get back to those 30-goal seasons, sure. But the reality is, Loui Eriksson has, maybe 10 goals this season, not even? And he is getting paid about $600,000 per goal as a result.
Well, okay, his paycheck was what he was more than able to acquire when he was signed in free agency. Like that was we're going for the playoffs, the window's closing, but we're going to jam our foot in it, and Loui Eriksson is going to sneak through and lead us into the gloriousness that is the Stanley Cup. And then that didn't happen, and then people realized, well, wait a minute, what do you mean that contract is for how long, for this much time? We can surely deal them off somewhere. What do you mean these letters mean we can't? It was the weirdest contract that the Vancouver Canucks could go and get, considering how small of a window they truly had. But now, it is what it is. So I just want to clarify my point, so I can do this to say, in response to Chris in the pod, Loui Eriksson plays way too disinterestedly to be a little things guy. I'm not suggesting that he is a little things guy, and that's a good reason to keep him around. I will give him credit for doing one or two little things once or twice a game. Like, I think it was Bearded did mention he's good on the PK. Yeah, Loui is...
Sure, but you just can't pay someone...
Well, no, yeah, exactly. He's first-line money, fourth-line player.
My problem with people who use the Loui Eriksson can play the penalty kill as a defense to keeping Loui Eriksson on this team, anybody can play the penalty kill. But can you play it very well? Like, we pay Jay Beagle, in a sense, to be a penalty kill guy, but Jay Beagle's not here making $6 million a year either. And so... let me ask you this question. Can you see a path for Loui Eriksson not being on this team in 2019-2020?
Well, okay. Is he going to be traded?
Okay, let's start with that one first. Can you see a trade market for Loui Eriksson?
None whatsoever. No. Unless, actually, let me qualify that. Some team or teams are so desperate to get themselves up to the cap floor that they need that contract on the books. But even then, that's I mean, how many teams are down there now? Like, even Arizona is sort of starting to no longer, need the Chris Pronger contract of the world and whatnot. So I don't see him getting traded.
Here's another trade possibility, and I think I've floated this in Discord as well. Would you consider a trade straight up, Loui Eriksson for Milan Lucic? They both make the same amount of money, same cap hit. Lucic has one more extra year.
No.
What if Edmonton retains a little bit of money?
Year.
What we don't need them to retain money. Like, the problem is the extra year, and Milan Lucic isn't letting.
But if trading him, but if waiving him is not an option, would you consider this at all? Like, just to get Eriksson off this roster?
Okay, but you're just getting another problem.
Problem for problem, sure, but maybe there's a chance that other problem you're getting back works itself out.
Okay, and you're the Edmonton Oilers and you do this deal, why? Like, what
they
is
need winger help? Little things?
That's the thing. Like, is Loui Eriksson going to go and turn his career around?
50 goals
Edmonton?
with McDavid? I don't know. Look, if you're Edmonton, you're not happy with Milan Lucic, and if you're Vancouver, you're not happy with Loui Eriksson.
But I still don't see either of them swapping those issues. And, like, Lucic is always going to be one of the controversial ones, just personality-wise. So you'd have to have a really good reason to bring him in.
So, in conclusion, no trade market at all for Loui Eriksson.
Nope.
Okay, so the other thing about Eriksson, though, modified NTC,
Kicks in this summer.
right, submits a 15-team no-trade list. What do you think the money is that 15-team no-trade list includes a team such as the Edmonton Oilers?
I mean,
Probably pretty good.
if you can cut out half the league, I'm sure Edmonton would be in that half.
And I'm not even trying to disrespect Edmonton. It's just if I'm a player and I get to pick where I'm going to go, and I'm on sort of the tail end of my
Does
career.
Loui Eriksson pick the 15 poorest cap-strapped teams as well?
Oh, probably no. He's picking teams like was it Florida where like income tax doesn't exist or whatever. Like so, Tampa, Florida. There's two. I think Dallas would probably be on the list just because, again, this is now all about tax. Southern Belt states,
But yeah, if you're Loui Eriksson and you're not you're on a team that's not necessarily going to win a cup and you might not help them get there, yeah, you don't want to end up in Edmonton.
Yeah. So for Loui Eriksson, how about waiving him and sending him to Utica?
Well, you know what? If the Vancouver Canucks wanted to send a message, that's a good way to send one. But does Utica become
let me put it this way. You are on an island alone with Loui Eriksson. You have one bullet in a gun, and that bullet is labeled Utica. For a while, it sure seems like you're never going to do it. But the longer you stay on that island with Loui Eriksson, that bullet becomes more and more tempting. At some point, Jim Benning on that island with Loui Eriksson, facing all that negativity surrounding that Loui Eriksson contract. Is there any possibility that this team pulls the trigger on that bullet and says, Loui Eriksson, you are better served playing in Utica for $6 million a year than to be on this roster?
So they send him to Utica. Does Loui go? I actually think Loui Eriksson goes to Utica. Now, you're the Vancouver Canucks, and you're telling Francesco Aquilini, so we've got this guy that you're paying a lot of money to. You actually just paid him a signing bonus regardless of where he went, and he's in Utica. And we're probably going to have to do that again next year. I hope you don't mind. I don't know if Frankie
So does the
would be
family
on board.
not tolerate it, and then is what you're saying?
Well, so the family is currently paying a lot of money to players that aren't really providing them what they want. Like I was out for drinks with a buddy, works in the organization, and just sort of chatting about the team. His feeling by talking to just the people in the know, there's some thought that the family may be exerting some pressure that this is a playoff team next year based on the fact that we saw some really good things this year. So instead of being maybe 2 years out where we need a few more pieces, it is a matter of, we're going to get there. So now, Loui Eriksson, how's he playing the mix? He's not a playoff performer, so you do need to free up his spot. But is this ownership group going to enjoy paying that much money down there when they also have to pay to bring in the, Erik Karlsson's of the world, so on and so forth?
But
which still tie up a crap ton of cash and don't fill enough holes.
I mean, I'm not saying they have this self-awareness, but how can they not see that as two sides of the same coin? You bought in Loui Eriksson at big money in order to capitalize on the closing playoff window that you thought you had. Turns out we didn't have it, and now you're strapped with him, and how can they not then see that, being stuck with his contract and trying to shift that, they did that.
Oh, yeah, no, the Canucks did it themselves as a self-inflicted wound here.
Just to recap the discussion here on Loui Eriksson, new patron Epictetus sort of setting a good point. If you send Loui Eriksson to Utica, the Canucks had already sent Sam Gagner to Utica as well, or / the Toronto Marlies. You're starting to get a very bad reputation as that team in the NHL that sends big contract players to the minors if they don't perform. Is that a reputation that you would want to have if you're the Vancouver Canucks? And does that play a factor into you not sending Eriksson to Utica?
I think it's a bad thing to do, and I think I've made this argument before in Discord and on Twitter. I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve to be in the minors, but I think he didn't sign that contract to be playing in the minors. Why would you go? I think it is
but that's the thing. Why would you go? Because you want to get paid. If he didn't want to go to the minors, that NMC never disappears. As a player who's seen themselves get older, they're on essentially their last big contract. No player should come into that thinking, I got it made, or their agent shouldn't have believed them or led them to believe they got it made. they need to be aware that that might be a possibility. Now, to the point, though, is it a good rep to have? I don't think it necessarily is, dependent on the type of player you're in the market for, right? Because if you're in the market for someone who's on the tail end of their career and want to squeeze those last few good years and they're looking to get a long-term contract, yeah, that conversation is never going to come up. Two quick things that I wanted to talk about as we sort of look to wrap up Rewind. We had suggested that the Vancouver Canucks would get 2 out of a possible 6 points.
Oh, God.
And we got 5. 5 out of a possible 6 points.
I read a statistic somewhere. I think it was on Reddit Canucks. If the Canucks go 11-0 to end their regular season, they have a 75% shot at making the playoffs. I'm just going to put it out there.
Okay, they're not going to go 11-0. Because I said that. So because I said that, have I cursed the Canucks? Is this now going? Are they going to the playoffs?
Can you have Wyatt Arndt say that while we're at it?
Yeah. Tim Schaller, MVP.
Yeah, I mean, Canucks do make a speciality of shooting themselves in the foot in the tail end of the season there, but
we'll take a break, come back with Half Full, Half Empty right here on the C4 podcast, CanucksHockeyBlog.com.
Take hitting out of the game. You can't hit anymore, so don't do it.
The unsportsmanlike conduct, I want to get an explanation on it.
No kidding.
Because how do you get suspended for unsportsmanlike conduct?
Plus interference. There's no interference there. He had the puck.
Now, Madison never ever did that before. Now, why did he do it? And that because he was mad.
Well, your early favorite for the Calder Trophy, that's for sure. Elias Pettersson, you might even say your early favorite for the Hart Trophy.
Just to get back to your question, Elias is going to play plenty. He didn't play. He's going to get a lot of power play time. And, yeah, I'm concerned about our offense. We lost 200-point players, and we've got to find a way to score.
So, scoring update. Second period of Vancouver Canucks versus the Chicago Blackhawks. Just like to point out, Elias Pettersson has officially surpassed Pavel Bure's rookie scoring record for most points by a first-year player. An assist on Marcus Granlund's 10th goal of the year, 2-1 Vancouver.
Did they stop the game down there in Chicago?
Did they have the standing O?
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
Did they play Chelsea Dagger while they were at that? That would be the ultimate troll, by the way, for Chicago fans to piss on an otherwise great moment for Vancouver Canucks fans.
That's right. And then they trot out, Brad Marchand to, hand them off.
Okay, totally OTR. But did anyone see the game with the Boston Bruins having Conor McGregor in the building at TD Garden?
I didn't see it.
I think that just kind of proved who, someone, I think there were a couple of reporters and bloggers on Twitter saying that this made them torn between hating Boston and not, and I'm just like, no, it makes me hate them even more because I despise Conor McGregor.
So people can say what they want about Conor McGregor, but I would like to point out Brad Marchand scores a goal, and he does that Conor McGregor, swag kind of a celebration.
Yeah.
You've seen McGregor do that every now and then if you follow UFC. I can't believe I'm saying this on the CanucksHockeyBlog.com podcast, but I kind of liked it.
Nope. It just shows.
I know! I felt dirty even saying that. But Brad Marchand, that was funny.
People. They're both garbage people. This only emphasized that.
It was kind of funny.
All right, so Brad Marchand, if he played in Vancouver,
he'd be a fan favorite.
Oh, yeah. He's...
Sure.
He's Alex Burrows.
He's a high-end Matt Cook.
If my aunt had testicles, she'd be my uncle.
Well, that took a strange turn, but you're right.
Well, would she be your uncle then?
But you know what I mean. I get why everyone despised Alex Burrows and we loved him. It's the same thing. I despise him because he doesn't play for us and he is that player.
Anyway, getting back on the rails here. Elias Pettersson officially breaking Pavel Bure's single-season scoring record for most points by a rookie. 61 points now, and I believe it's 62 games played for Elias Pettersson, just short of 1 point per game. Let me ask you this question, Chris, because you were around for the Pavel Bure era. Statistically, yes, Elias Pettersson's rookie season is now more impressive than Pavel Bure's. He accomplished the feat, by the way, in I think 3 fewer games than Bure did. But is his season more impressive than Bure's rookie season? Because you remember the hype around Bure's rookie season. It's comparing apples and oranges, but if you were to look at those two rookie seasons in a vacuum, which would you prefer?
Okay, well, when Pavel Bure in his rookie season sort of joined the Vancouver Canucks, the Vancouver Canucks were always this blue-collar team. It was blue-collar. Never really had that pure skill
superstar
play. Yeah, and when he showed up, that was like, oh, my God, this is amazing. I I was a young Canucks fan at that point, and for me, that was like, wow, I didn't know this was even possible. Pettersson is just playing in a different era. I don't know, not to suggest I'm any less excited about Elias Pettersson's play. I think I was probably more excited by when Pavel Bure arrived on the scene, just because I'd never seen anything like that. Mm-hmm. Since that time, I mean, I've seen a lot of good players come through Vancouver and perform. Not, again, to the Pettersson level. I think Pettersson is on a level to himself. And I'd also like to point out that I was given some serious heat on this same podcast by the same two people in this room when I made the comparison of Elias Pettersson to Pavel Bure.
New phone, who dis?
I don't see Adam in here.
Yeah, Adam. I actually probably missed that episode.
Adam's
too.
balls hadn't even dropped when Pavel Bure was around.
What
Actually, I don't think he was born.
What episode has this become? Like,
why? Because we talked about testicles and balls in the last 5 minutes.
We're trending so close to me having to check that little box that says explicit episode.
Anywho.
Yeah. See, I was trying to be slightly better by using a scientific term. I don't know how that made it better. It's not.
By the way, Adam's medical emergency, not related to his balls.
I'm sure everyone is relieved to know that.
Like right now, like patron chat just shut down. I think we broke the podcast. Back on track. I just actually want to talk about something that occurred in a penalty shot situation. Did Khudobin throw a stick?
Yes. It's not even a question.
Yes.
Like, it's so
Yeah.
not even somewhat gray. It is so black and white. He threw the stick. I don't know how that wasn't a thing. Like, there were 4 people in striped shirts on the ice who saw that, and you telling me not one of them thought, oh, hey, there's a chance that maybe he threw his stick.
So when I saw it in real time, to me, I was like, okay, did he drop the stick? Did he, like, it seemed awkward. Like, it didn't occur to me that he threw it. When you look at the overhead camera,
no, it looked the overhead
camera
looked pretty
like,
bad.
There's no way that's a hockey play, and yet the NHL came out today. They responded to JPAT and said, oh yeah, it was just a hockey play. Like, what kind of hockey play is it that you're trying to do a poke check and you happen to just throw your stick? My bad.
So, yeah, the NHL's response is there had to be, overwhelming evidence that it wasn't a hockey play. And I'm just like, just watch the tape, dudes.
Someone actually screen capped the NHL guidelines to officials where it says if the goaltender loses their stick, whether it be intentional or accidental, matters not. Like, that's an automatic goal. So, yeah, do I think he was throwing his stick? I actually think if he did, it was more like, oh my God, what do I do here? Whoops. Like, it wasn't like he went in thinking he was going to. But that was the result.
I'm not going to give him credit for that.
No. I mean, it's like, I'm going to try to poke check. Whoops, I lost my stick. That's still, in my mind, in the spirit of the guidelines, that should have been a goal. Anyhow, the overhead camera, to me, is like so clear as day that is not a hockey play. That's not like, oh my God, the stick fell out of my hands. Like, he let go. Like, you can see a open hand. Like, how often can you see the goaltender with an open hand?
Yeah.
Can we also talk about Khudobin dislodging the net on purpose as well?
Okay, the fact that this has now happened twice in the NHL within, 2 weeks? Like, this happened in Toronto, too. Toronto, Chicago, where somehow the net sort of came off the pegs. Because, they do that. They just sort of slide off without much pressure.
Couldn't believe that.
It's the NHL.
You know what? It's come to the point where I'm just so used to the NHL jobbing the Vancouver Canucks that it's all like...
Jobbing?
It's all the same song and dance to me.
Yeah, and honestly, it's not like we lost the game. So really, they're just trying to screw PD's point per game and make us wait for that.
Yeah, that's what it was. It's actually, it's not the NHL. It's Eastern media trying to, bring down, Elias Pettersson and his quest for the Calder Trophy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, man.
So we got a few minutes. Can we talk about Quinn Hughes' watch?
Yeah, when do you think he's going to get in? Like, he was in a walking boot when he arrived last week, which this is the weirdest thing. So GMJB can't come out and say that, he won't play his 10 games because, he could have totally come out and said, we're going to take it easy, give him a few games, IR, whatever. But no, we're going to play coy and then say, oh, yeah, now we're not going to put him until he's ready. But when does he get in? Realistically. Do we see him against the Sens?
That's the game after this one, right?
Yeah.
Sens are already in town, by the way, if those are wondering. Probably at the Roxy right now as we speak.
Yeah, I was going to say, does that still exist?
Roxy doesn't open until 7 o'clock.
Matt's going to ride there on his bike.
I don't know that. What was the question again? When's he getting in?
Can I go OTR real quick?
When does Quinn get in?
And here we go.
Real quick. But can you just admire my restraint for 1 second? I got a text from a friend that a good portion of the Canucks were doing the New Oxford trivia, at the moment, and I should go and see, and I didn't go.
Sorry, a good portion of the Canucks were doing what trivia?
The pub trivia at the New Oxford.
Where's
this
the New Oxford?
Yeah, I don't know what
in Yaletown.
Oh, and you didn't go?
I didn't go.
Man, you should have totally gone.
I had just come in from netball, so I was a little sweaty.
Okay, because we're going to stack you off the rails. Speaking of, C4 Canucks hockey blog people and Canucks players, you remember the days when Dale Weiss used to DM Liz Moffat?
I forgot about that.
Yeah. It's like
Dutch Gretzky, you mean?
Yeah, Dutch Gretzky. So I remember there was one night. It was like, I think, were you with us or whatever? We were supposed to all head to the Roxy, and so Liz actually DM'd Dale at our urging, like, "Hey, let him know you're going to the Roxy." And his response, "Oh, I can't make it tonight. Maybe another." But he was genuinely like, "I can't make it tonight." Yeah.
Creepy.
As Dutch Gretzky said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Okay, so getting back on the rails, Quinn Hughes. I don't expect him next game. I think at the very least he plays maybe on the weekend.
So the weekend is the Flames on Saturday, Hockey Night in Canada.
At home?
At home, or the Blue Jackets on Sunday.
I rented Sunday.
I could see the Saturday game being at the biggest stage, get the family in town for that one. This is assuming, by the way, that the boot, of course, comes off and he's had a couple days to get in the skate.
Okay. So if he gets in against the Flames, that's just the home stretch to almost end the season, and then off the road they go.
A couple bit of prospect talk discussions. Jet Wu signing his entry-level contract over the weekend.
A-level bonuses.
Yes. I saw that.
That's
apparently very rare for anyone who's not a first-round pick.
Yeah.
But Rick Dollywell from Sportsnet 650 tweeting about that's how much the Canucks believe in Jet Wu.
Well, and so I'm genuinely curious. Them offering A-level bonuses. I get this. The Canucks saying, "Hey, we believe in you, kid." But from a business perspective, is that trying to buy some goodwill later on? What's in it for the Canucks?
I don't think there's anything tied to that if you're the Vancouver Canucks. I don't think they're saying we expect some sort of loyalty or for you to leave some money on the table.
It's just the business side of me is just curious why.
I think it's just them trying to incentivize Jet Wu to show how much they believe in him as a second-round pick.
Yeah, so he can be.
And I understand it's rare, but Jet Wu likely going to be back playing for Moose Jaw next season to play an even bigger role than what he's playing this season with Josh Brook not being on the team next year. He's going to be probably, I want to say, on the World Junior team for Canada next year after just missing the cut this year. It's right now, if you were to hold a redraft, so to speak, of the 2018 draft, you could probably make the argument that Wu would be a borderline first-round pick. Barely for borderline first-round pick.
Yeah, I think you could definitely make that argument.
And so I think that the Canucks genuinely think that there's a future for Jet Wu. It's a long-term view, of course, but he's a fearless defenseman at 6'6" who plays clearly above his weight class. He's a right shot defenseman who can play the right side. There are a lot of things, a lot of boxes that Jet Wu ticks off that this team needs on the blue line. And I do think that there is a chance that we see Jet Wu in a Canucks uniform maybe within the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, let's see, right? You've still got a long way to go, but yeah, I am quietly optimistic about him.
Meanwhile, some other prospects news. Tyler Madden in Northeastern still playing in the NCAA right now. I believe Madden scored a goal, I believe, of the weekend. But another interesting tidbit I read from Corey Pronman of The Athletic asking where would Tyler Madden go in a redraft, and he would say he would be a mid-first round pick in today's if you did a redraft.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Jack Rathbone, by the way, named to the ECAC rookie team as well. He's also lighting up. So not a bad week for the 2018 draft class of the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah, it's one of the few things GMJB does well. Question.
Yes?
So, the Canucks are currently winning 2-1 against Chicago. Presuming they win that game.
Oh, no. Don't do this to me.
We play the Senators on Wednesday.
Oh, no. There's another win.
On Saturday.
That's a
and
loss.
The Blue Jackets on Sunday. Now,
This is the equivalent of that little 4-gamer that we went on last season around this time, too.
Yeah, and I actually don't see the Canucks beating the Flames. I just don't see how that's possible. Not the way the Flames are playing right now, and the Flames are wanting to win the West. So Sens, I don't know. Do we beat the Sens?
Sens won a game the other day.
I know.
They won a game?
But that's... I don't see how we beat the Sens.
Sens proceed to trade that win for Matt Duchene and then trade Matt Duchene as well.
I mean...
There's a joke in there somewhere.
Yeah. They're dead last. Like, I know Canucks gonna Canuck, but you think we beat Ottawa.
Okay, so by the way, since we're talking about the Chicago game, is it wrong at all that I thought with Demko in net it was an automatic loss? Is that just how good Markstrom is or how bad Demko is at this point? Like, I saw Demko was in net and like, yep, we're going to lose this game.
Well, is it that Demko is not good or is it that the team in front of him don't play well? I actually think it's more the team in front of him.
Yeah.
Like we talked about this on a few episodes back where, like, back in the day when you had a young goaltender in the net, the team did everything in their power to stop that puck from getting on net. Whereas it seems with Demko in the net, they're like, yeah, we're not going to actually play defense tonight, so, kid, have fun.
I don't think they do a much better job for Markstrom. It's just Markstrom is on a tear, and, yeah, he's stealing games, and you can't expect Demko to do that at this stage.
And in Columbus, they're in the wild card hunt. I actually think the Canucks...
The return of Torts?
Yeah.
The revenge game?
Is that what it is? Are we going to see Travis Green and Torts go at it in the first intermission?
You know what? I'd give Green the edge on that one.
Yeah, you think?
Torts is a very short man in real life. Did you know that?
No, I actually never saw him. The only thing I ever heard was the border guards talking about him. They liked him.
Green's probably got the height advantage, the reach.
Yeah, it's funny that the Flames are coming to town the game before. Just his old nemesis. I wonder if he'll still be able to smell them.
Yeah, where's Bob Hartley these days?
He's probably throwing out fourth-line scrubs in some beer league hockey game that he's coaching.
I honestly, I have been on an arena tour a couple of times since then, and they literally point out the spot where,
you can do that?
You didn't know they do arena tours?
Yeah.
Look, I had an arena tour every day I was working that one season as a Canucks reporter.
Oh, man.
I don't want to brag.
Yeah.
But
not to brag, but I'm pretty awesome.
But I was that close to Eddie Lack's jockstrap that 1 year.
Yeah, that 1 year.
So do you want to wrap things up here?
Well, I do. I was going to ask you, where's Eddie Lack these days?
On Twitter?
On Twitter and in upstate New York, I think. That's where the Devils farm team is.
Is he not playing at all?
I don't know. He responds to, Wyatt all the time. They're, close. Thick as thieves. As far as the podcast is concerned, it's about that time where we look to wrap things up. For those of you who are listening live in Discord, we thank you. And for those who are curious, how the heck do I tune in live to the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast? Well, first, I have to join our Discord. To join our Discord, just go to bit.ly/C4 Discord, C4 Discord, all caps. That gets you into the front door. Then, if you are a patron supporter, if you support us on Patreon, you get upgraded. Not only get access to the inner segment we call Patron Chat, but our patrons get to listen to us record live where it is technically possible, or technologically possible, that'd be more it.
Yeah, and can I just say the patron chat, live chat during this episode has been insanely good. It's just kind of taken on a life of its own, which is
that's awesome. They're having their own podcast in patron chat right now.
Yeah, I think so.
No, that's pretty cool. But again, got to be a patron, and you have to be in our Discord as well. If you are listening to us where you happen to be listening to us, great. We ask for you to leave us a review. Smash that 1 star, but these guys are awesome, or 5 stars, these guys suck. That's how it works, right? 5 stars and you suck is.
Yeah, no, but we want that end. We don't want the 1 star, you guys are awesome.
Okay. It's got to be 5 stars, and then whatever you rate in the comments is really what it means. Yeah. But, okay. See, I get that mixed up all the time. And if you are looking for us online, it is CanucksHockeyBlog.com. We're on Facebook, Facebook.com/the C4 Podcast, and on Twitter @the C4 Podcast. Now, as we wrap up each and every episode with your words of wisdoms to our thousands and thousands of listeners, I'm going to start with Anna.
I just think something that we didn't really get around to mentioning, but it's not really relevant yet, but Tevez. That was...
Is it Tevis or is it Taves?
Is it Taves?
I don't know.
I just want to say Tevez, like Carlos Tevez, but I'm guessing that's probably not accurate.
Think he's related?
Probably not. I don't know how good Argentinians are at hockey. I'm guessing not very.
To answer your question, I don't think he gets games. He might get one.
Okay. So that was easy. That was done.
Similar to that one guy. You
Closing
remember that
thoughts.
one player like a couple years ago? It was like totally a pointless year, and like he got one game for the Canucks at the end of the season.
I haven't a clue.
I'll look it up.
Well, so I was going to ask you what your final words of wisdom were.
I do want to say shout out to Bearded Canuck 03 and Killer Sushi, who are duking it out for the fantasy championship in the C4 League. Number 1 meets number 2. Pepper needs new shorts versus Sean's Bearded Buttes. I would like to give an update as well that you did in fact finish last.
That's good, because if I didn't, that would have been just amazing.
I'm currently battling it out for 7th spot, so that's equally important.
Hey.
I'd like to also mention that I missed the playoffs by like that much.
Oh, Muffin.
Shut up. I'm looking it up here. What was the guy? Oh, yeah. It was Mike Zalewski.
Mike Zaleski?
Zaleski, whatever his name was.
Okay, so he ended up practicing with the Canucks. I think I brought him up on my very first episode. It was either my very first episode, maybe my first guest episode. And everyone was like, we haven't heard that name in a very long time.
Was it
And
Zaleski?
then he ended up getting, I think, a game and a point or something like that right after I said his name. So I don't think he had any games when we first signed him, but I think he had some the next year.
Man, there are some names on this list. Borna Rendulic.
So while you're going
Jack
back,
Skilly.
while you're going back in
he
a
used
down
to
memory
around the
lane.
corner from me. Jack Skilly.
Interesting.
Griffin Molino. Sorry,
Taylor
I'm done.
Fedun, do you remember him? And he freaking scored
against the Vancouver Canucks this weekend. The revenge game. By the way, everything will be known as the revenge
and
game.
Kevin Connaughton, he scored against us a bunch.
The revenge game.
He also, I'm sure I've told this story before, but he like won me something when he scored for the Chicago Wolves in a like pick your first scorer competition during the lockout.
God, I remember when the Chicago Wolves used to come to town, play the Heat out in Abbotsford. It was like the 2 games of the season that they would sell that barn out. And it was essentially a home game for the Wolves. The first season, the Abbotsford Heat were like, they were trying to play up the fact that it was Heat versus Wolves. Come on, cheer your Heat. The second season, it's like, hey guys, cheer for your favorite team. Glad you're here. By the way, spend some money on beer. Question for you two before we wrap this thing up. Pavel Bure in today's NHL, where there is no longer a red line.
85 goals. That might be a little bit much.
Yeah? And it's, again, a different type of hockey, but Pavel Bure playing Pavel Bure style with no red line, with the freedom players are essentially given now.
You remember when 2-line passes were an offside? That was weird.
Remember when the goaltender could stop the puck at any point on the ice, so long as it was, this side of the red line?
Yeah. No, seriously, I think in today's era, very quickly, Bure would score 60 goals this season.
You think?
Right. Yeah. I think that's pretty doable.
Yeah. Anyhow, as we do with every episode when we wrap things up, we do thank you for tuning in. Patrons, it's been a slice. Hopefully you can keep tuning in week after week. For those of you who might be new and listening to us, wherever you happen to be listening to us, whether it's through the Overtime Media Network or online CanucksHockeyBlog.com or your favorite podcast app, I am Chris Golden at Lightforce, signing off for the Missing in Action at Adam O'Vanell Carter at Adam FOC. The two that are here in the big hot box with me, it's Anna Forsyth at AForsyth03 and Matt Lee at MattLee_61. We're out.
Thanks for listening to the C4 Podcast on CanucksHockeyBlog.com.